Hello, and welcome back to Password. We're here in the kitchen taking stock of things with a good boy. With a good boy. Yep. But the attitude in the room seemed to show that things might not be so great with the food after all.
We can make this work, but if things go longer than a week, with how many of us there are,
That bad, huh?
it's not looking good. At least as far as the refrigerator goes.
And plenty of sun dries still. Rice, flour, plenty of things that we could stretch out potentially, but even that's finite.
Part of me is thinking that we carved the pumpkin, thankful that we carved the pumpkin when we did. There's still a lot of that left in the freezer to work through.
Which is good, right?
If it comes down to it, we can't afford to be picky.
Depending on when the road issue gets addressed, even beyond working with what may come at us from the woods, we might have to last a couple of weeks yet.
Which isn't good. I said that, right?
You did, yeah.
Especially when...
Eyes went to Roswell, and he just shrugged. If it happens, it happens. There's no point in worrying about it and planning around one less person. Right. We have to assume that we can feed everyone still here, right? Not exactly what I was getting at, but yes.
Then, what were you getting at? That sounded... that there'd be less.
It's a possibility, a grim one, but one that might make the food stretch longer.
That's, well...
So as long as we don't start deciding who to kill off, we're fine, right? We're all still friends. Of course we are, Dave. It's not as if, I suppose the talk yesterday has kind of muddied that a little, huh?
You're going to take the rat's word that one of us is a traitor. I thought he said that no one was. Dean, for someone that was dating a Tanuki, you sure can't piece two and two together. I'm sorry.
He means that Thanatos really meant that it was one of us. He was taunting us in our assuredness that none of us were guilty. Which one is it, though? If anyone would know, it'd be him. But something tells me that he's going to be less generous to tell us who to point the finger at.
What... what something is that, Roswell? That he openly admitted to try to kill one of us, that he's a walking, talking rat? Robot. Like that makes a difference.
It might make a little, I don't know. He's not telling us everything for sure, but he's also been questionably fair. The moment the word left my mouth, I doubted them, a sentiment shared by everyone except Roswell. In a sense, that's true. If he was truly malicious, yes. Bring Mally back to 3, please. I want to Destiny Hero all day, every day. I don't really care about Dark Warrior. It's fine. I used to play Dark Warrior. It's fine. Then he wouldn't have allowed you to put in passwords, right?
But the trade-off is that, if Dave didn't step in, then... one or more of us could be dead, and it'd be his fault.
Take Tyson, for example. Who knows what would be different if you didn't step in, Dave?
I'd rather not think about it.
Right. But the fact that he'd allowed you to intervene rather than carrying out the deed anyway. He shrugs, shaking his head. Whatever his motives are, they're beyond me.
They sound complicated. Complicated is one way to put it.
That doesn't help us figure out if we can or can't trust him, does it?
I wouldn't. But if it's a choice between someone who's proven to help keep people alive, even if it requires a special word.
It's better than the alternative, for sure.
One thing we can control, though. We might need to worry about foraging, and if it comes to that, I have it covered.
But what about how dangerous the woods are?
Hey, I can handle myself in the woods. If it makes you feel any better, I won't go out there unless I've got an axe, or a gun if I can find one. Even then, only as a last resort, alright?
I breathed a sigh of relief, feeling that whatever fallout Dean and I had seemed to be over. Or over enough that he seems to not be showing any more signs of grief over it. As far as it being an option, it's good to know that we have one should the food run out. Okay. I get it. I understand.
Yeah, absolutely. We're a long way off that, but it's nice to go. It's nice to go. It's nice to know it's there.
Wait, but it's nice to go. It's there. Go. It's. So if food is handled, what now? I guess meal planning. While we have the food, it's probably a good idea to figure out how to use what we have efficiently, right?
Probably a good idea. It seems like we have a fair bit, but it might turn out to be more than we realize once we've planned actual meals. Any way I can help with all that?
If Orlando can plan the meals, we can act as runners around the kitchen to call out what we do and do not have. Which means I'm not needed.
You're welcome to stay if you want, but between the three of us, we should have it.
If you're sure, I guess up next is trying to track down Benson, unless any of you have seen him.
Not going to check in with the others?
Been there already. And how did retrieving the sword go? Not well. They're thinking of alternatives.
Maybe you should have gone with them after all, Dean.
They're managing. I probably just distracted them.
If they're still struggling later, then I can go help. We've got our hands full as it is.
Benson? None of the others seem to have seen him so far, and with him missing, at breakfast too, it was strange that he hadn't made himself known. My mind immediately went to the worst, fearing that he'd been an unsuspected victim, while the rest of us had been distracted. The only thing stopping me from going into a full-blown panic was what Thanatos had said earlier. He'd known for certain if Benson had been done, and I assumed that he'd have said something. Taking a load off by sitting on the stairs, I looked around the foyer, wondering where I should be looking. For a brief moment, I wondered if I should head back to one of the other groups and help them rather than sit and do nothing. But that's when I heard it, echoing throughout the foyer. The distant sound of knocking coming from the front door. My fur stood on end, and I wasn't sure how to think of what to think at first. Knocking could only mean one thing, but should I answer the door? The knocking happened again, and this time much more insistent, enough so that I shook and took a couple of steps back closer to the door. If it was Benson, he'd just walk in. Same with Oswin or any of the others. Who's there? The moment I spoke, I drew back, feeling like I shouldn't have asked.
Open up. I need to talk about something.
Open it. I almost jumped as Thanatos seemed to come out of nowhere, standing next to me. Then, as usual, he scrambles up my leg and perched on my shoulder. Who is it? It's safe. Open it. Before I could question him about it, the knocking happened again. Although it was closer to slamming rather than anything polite. I could hear the others starting to approach the foyer, but with Thanatos whipping the back of my head with his tail, I opened the door. Huh. Interesting. Okay. I was greeted to a meaty hand poised in the front of my face, though dropped limply after noticing the door had opened. Hello?
You're not Hammond.
He looked down at me. The slight tilt in his head and narrowing of his eyes made me wonder what he was thinking. But before I could even try to stop him, he pushed his way inside, yes. As he looked around the place, I looked at Thanatos, but there was nothing in how he reacted. That implied that something was wrong, as much as the feeling in my gut told me I was in danger. You were after Hammond?
Yeah, I needed to talk to them about something. Go get one, will you? I believe I'll suffice for that.
Benson, much like Thanatos, seemed to have popped out of nowhere and seemed stiff in how he stood in the doorway of one of the side rooms. He made his way over, and once the large bear had turned his attention away from me, I took a few steps back.
You're not Hammond either, but I remember you. May I ask what you're doing here? Came to talk. About. Wanted to cut a deal.
The others all filed in at this point, 3 stopping midway down the stairs, the others in the doorway leading to the dining room. The bear looked at everyone in turn, seemingly lingering on Roswell before he noticed someone on the stairs.
Hoss, that you?
Dom?
Well, ain't you a sight for sore eyes? How have you been?
Been better. Haas seemed to know him, and more importantly, was relaxed around him. But why? As he stepped forward, I noticed the gun tucked into the back of his pants, and I looked once more to Thanatos, who just shook his head. Benson seemed to notice too, but only tensed further.
No shit!
Before we get too distracted,
Dominic, was it? Just Dom is fine.
The foyer is hardly a comfortable place to be having a lengthy discussion. Shall we move to the dining room?
Sure, that's fine.
Wait. All eyes were on me, and slowly I raised a hand to point out the gun Dom had tucked away. Gun.
What about it?
May I ask why you came armed?
Don't see the big deal. Don't see what the big deal is, given you've got a piece on you right now.
Surely there's a good reason given we have a sudden, unexpected visitor while the road off the mountain is currently missing.
Got me there all right.
Well,
what? You're not taking my gun.
Why do you have one, though?
In case things got ugly. Luckily for you, I'm just here to talk. This time.
Dom led the way to the dining room with Dean, Roswell, and Orlando, backing off to let him pass. He pulled out a chair and dropped into it, stretching and leaning back while the rest of us tried to figure out what to do. You were after Hammond, yes. If you wait here, I shall go fetch the master of the house.
Suits me fine.
Benson shot Roswell a look, then the same look to Haas? Okay. Before making to leave.
I shall not be long. Been uptight, isn't it? Been uptight, isn't he? Hasn't changed much, has he, Haas?
Well, things have been rough lately.
Guessing I know why.
What would your guess be?
Figured that's 'cause of Jack.
The name made me shudder briefly and shake my head. Thanatos took this chance to drop down onto the table and cocked his head towards the chair that I had fallen into. Yeah, that's one thing. Although, why do you know that?
Jack and I.
He trailed off, and the room went quiet. I looked around, wondering if something was happening, or if someone was going to interrupt, but it never happened. You and Jack?
We're work buddies. Work buddies? Right. What do you want me to say? Oh, you've said plenty. What I want to know is why my dad sent you to come talk. That's between me and Hammond. Speaking of, here I am. Here I am. Good to see you.
Oswin grunted, not bothering to sit down, and just looked Dom over, raising his eyebrows.
What do you want? Come to cut a deal. About. The boss wants what you have, and isn't fussed if he has to come in and take it. Well, I told him he can't have it. And I'll tell you, he's gonna come take it anyway. Your call.
This is sounding less like a deal and more like a threat.
It may as well be. He came armed and everything. Look, you want to stick around, then great. None of us mind getting our hands dirty. And if we don't have to, then then we'd rather the easier job. So, the deal you're offering us is to stand back and keep our lives while he comes charging in and takes whatever he wants. Pretty much. Hold on. How did you even convince him to come and talk without him just charging in? Easy enough. You all cleaning out means we don't have to make the bodies disappear. Easier job. You can't be serious. You tell me, he's your dad.
Orlando went to reply, but cut himself off, eyes still wide and seemingly unable to refute anything he said. That's all we'd need to do. Just stay out of the way?
Tell Memphis that we decline the deal. What? No deal.
But we just got handed an out. We can all survive if we just stay out of the way.
Do you believe Mensis is one to keep his word? So you're just going to piss him off instead? I'd rather die standing than have him chase us down anyway, once he's realized what he's after is something that doesn't exist. But you're dooming us all by making that decision. Let me see if I understand the situation completely. Perhaps I've made a mistake somewhere in my assumption. It's not hard. It's not that hard. You have a machine or something in the basement. The boss wants it. And has he told you what exactly it is? Time machine. And if I told you it wasn't? You think that's going to matter to the boss? He's already decided that's what it is. So you understand that whatever I give him isn't going to be what he's after. And he's going to go on a tirade regardless.
So we're stuck, no matter what we do. He's going to come looking for something that doesn't exist, and then hunt us down to make us give him, or kill us when we don't? My question was answered with resigned silence. My friends at a loss for words. Oswin staring at Dom, trying to figure something out, and Dom just sitting there as he just asked us, as if he just asked us what the weather was like. How long do we have?
Until he comes knocking, presumably.
Basically, yes. Hours? Days?
He was set on paying a visit tomorrow if I come back with bad news. Could maybe be a day or two.
But why?
We're not hunting for food or shelter. We're not hurting for food or shelter. Taking it easy for a day or two It suits me fine, if it means an easier job.
But if it's going to end up in murder anyway, then what's the point?
If we don't have to call in a favor to a buddy of ours to skew the trial for us, all the better. Made bank off the boss before that. Before that's nothing to keep him out of jail. And with that much capital to waste, I doubt he even noticed the cost. That too.
Do you know why he wants the time machine?
You ain't telling me it really is a time machine now. It is not a time machine.
Osmond shot me a sour look before turning back to Dom.
I, however, am also curious as to what specifically he wants with what's downstairs. While not a time machine, I'm curious to know what he wants it for. Hasn't said much. Just that he has some correcting to do.
Correcting?
Getting rid of the old man properly, for starters.
But can't he just, Roswell made a pistol gesture with his hand, pretending to shoot Orlando.
Guess not. No, I'm at a loss as what that small-minded dragon is thinking then. But I'll have no part in it.
What about the deal?
Dave, there's been no deal struck that isn't just a ploy to delay the inevitable. Could sweeten it if you like.
What do you have in mind?
Can tell you how we got onto the mountain if you want. Give you a head start while the boss makes a go at the thing downstairs.
We can go home?
Don't care where you go. All I'm saying is I'll try to tell you how we got here.
Not exactly a good deal if you're just going to say the main road, and given it's likely you also blew it up.
Jack did the explosion, but we came up another way. And this other way is still usable. If you can get there, sure.
I swapped looks with Oswin. Silently, I plead with him, but I couldn't tell where his mind was at. What I did catch was him looking quickly to Roswell, then back to me, before turning back to Dom.
Counteroffer. Oh, yeah. Memphis can't get the machine working without me. With it being a time machine or not, so an exchange is what I'll offer, at the very least, in good faith. What are you thinking? You for someone else.
How is this a good idea? You're going to go and we're going to end up with one of them here.
No. Me plus one other shall go. What are you playing at? Nah, shall go as collateral. In addition, one of the others will come along so they can be shown what this other method off the mountain is. They'll be free to come back and relay the information, obviously.
Benson made to retort, and Oswin put up a hand quickly, indicating that he should hold off.
Those are my terms. Don't think the boss is going to like that.
But who's going to go?
Assuming Memphis is fine with the arrangements, it should be you and me. The reason why should be more than obvious.
I look at him, worried. I knew what he was talking about, but I didn't think that the promise I made only a day ago would be cashed in already.
Already told you, the boss isn't gonna like that. Then the deal is off. Either we play by my terms or not at all. And I know what that means for us once you've finished telling Menzies that.
I was floored. Everyone in the room seemed to be with the exception of Benson, who was fuming, Dominic, who seemed to be thinking it over, and Roswell, who just seemed worried.
Best I can do is see if he'll play nice with that arrangement. Should he be agreeable to those terms, by all means, come pay us another visit.
He shook his head, gesturing to Benson as he made to leave.
Feel free to stay as long as you like. If you were here to kill us, you'd have done so already.
He made another gesture to Thanatos, but gave up when it seemed the rat was going to stay right where he was. I watched as Roswell took his leave as well, heading into the kitchen deep in thought. The rest of us swapped looks, not knowing what to do next.
What?
Well, it's not as if we really know what to be thinking, right?
Where did this even happen? Were you always a part of the mob? Is this a new thing? Pretty new. Was actually that gig we had, which started this up.
What?
Hold on, what gig? The show that was filmed here, or whatever it was.
Gee, thanks for paying attention to the start of my acting career, buddy. What do you mean by starting up? Was it like a recruitment?
Don't think it started that way, but the boss knows what he likes in a man. Careful how you phrase that. If you were a bit bigger built hoss, chances are you'd have been recruited too.
Yeah, I'll pass, thanks.
Was that filming even legitimate, or was it just for Dad to scout out new members for the family? Can't tell you.
Can't or won't?
Can't. I don't know. Took a shiny to
a shining. Okay.
To my buddy Jack, though, and brought him along. How did I miss this happening? How did I not know that Dad has brought you and Jack in on things? If I did, then maybe I could have just... maybe. 'Cause he thinks you're a piece of shit, really.
Dude, not cool.
He asked.
But still, Orlando's his son, right?
Outside of money and violence, I don't think I've seen the boss crack a smile over anything once. Or anything else. Gets real mad when you bring up his son, though.
Because?
'Cause he's the heir. And old Tennessee, yeah, whatever. Still kicking. Doesn't do him any favors either.
By context, that'd be...
Grandpa. The boss can't do much about who's next in line, with the old man still about. But once he's gone, well... He wouldn't kill Grandpa, would he?
I caught sight of Roswell entering the room again, looking dejected. Even with the snacks under his arms, I tuned out what the others were talking about to watch Roswell wander up to where we were all stationed and threw a bag of marshmallows on the table. You know, I'm going to end the part here. So, I'll see you around, everyone.